And
Can you
we're
guys hear me?
live. G'day, I'm Scotty
I
North, and
cannot hear
this
you.
is today's
Shh, what's going on here?
version of Property Realm with Remo talking in the background. There you go. It's always very exciting to have our team on. Where are you, team? I can't see you. There we are.
Howdy.
Are you there?
I can't hear you guys.
Ah,
We can
well,
definitely hear
I
you,
don't know
Reem.
what's going on.
all right. Well, we'll let Remo sort himself out there, and maybe have to log out and log back in. Someone want to tell him that. That'd be good. And yeah, all right. So our topic for today, CO, go for
Our
it.
topic today, yeah. So it's an interesting one. This one to develop, hold, or sell. And a question that we often get, or from different inquiries, is there seems to be this kind of mindset from property owners, investors that want to buy into a property development, want to get into it at a discount and make profits by holding it moving forward. I'd love to discuss with you guys the different options as to why they shouldn't partner with a developer if they're going on to hold, or if they should or shouldn't. That'd be a good a few different questions I'd love to cover in this live, and also what are the intentions from the for someone that's looking to hold and for someone that's looking to sell, from both the developer's perspective and for buyers from their perspectives as well. I'd love to cover some of these questions with yourself, Scotty, Karen, and Remo.
Yeah. All right. Good. Well, that's a bit of a deep topic. Thanks, CO. All right. Let's take one bite at a time. So where do you want to start, mate?
So let's start with um, if I'm looking at the investors who are wanting to get into property development at a discount, and with the intention to hold. What are some of the pros and cons for a property investor that wants to partner in a property development project and hold at the same time? What are some of the pros and cons?
Yeah. Okay. All
For
right. Well,
Yeah, seems like a
let's
common question.
yeah, let's dig into that. So let's be clear that when we do a project from the outset, traditionally we needed to work out whether we were going to sell that project or to hold it, because it's kind of two conflicting potentials at the end, right? Because when we do a project to do a project and then sell it, we're trying to maximize the profit. We've talked about that in past shows before. So we want to maximize the profit, then it means we're trying to get the highest price possible on a sale. So how do we hold that then if some people in the group want to hold it, and how do we do that, and where do they make the profit, the others want to exit, and things like that. So that's where it can get a little bit complicated. So we just need to say from the outset that currently projects are decided up front if they're going to be sold or if they're going to be held. And traditionally, in what we've been doing is we've been selling. And from next year, we've got enough demand from our clients now that they want to do some that they want to hold. And so we'll look at that. So to come back, circling back, just want to put that disclaimer at the front. To circle back to your question, which is, what do we do if we want to hold? Well, the structure is not too dissimilar to there you go, nice double negative for a normal development where we would build and sell. The difference is the structure moving forward in terms of the hold, how many people are involved, what's the value of their equity, how many years they want to hold it for. So there is some more dynamics around the hold than there are additional ones than there is on just the construction, because you've got them on top of the construction. Because we're building to hold, we have not only the build requirements, but we have the hold requirements as well. So that's something to note there. Wonder if can we hear Remo or what? Is he back?
Yeah, I think so. Am I
Oh
back?
yeah, there. Oh,
Yes.
that's
Yeah, I
good.
can hear you guys now. Sorry about that.
It's all right.
Apologize.
I had technology gremlins
Yeah,
this morning too, mate. It's all good.
yeah. I'll chime in there. I had a thought process. Stick with me on this one. Um, I forgot what I was going to say now. Why did you have to talk about something else about not hearing it?
Well, there you go. So we'll feel free to jump in, Remo or Karen. But I mean, at the moment, we currently sell projects, right? Because that's where we profitize. There you go. There's a nice
Of
word that
course,
I just
and you,
created.
yeah, and you've got to determine that up front. The other thing is when you're purchasing and developing to hold, the whole dynamic changes. You got to look at your financial position up front. You can't look at the financial position at the back because your holding cost on a project, on one of our projects, for instance, our holding cost on our construction cost is what, $837,000, around that. So you've got to factor that in. If you're going to rent out our current project, for instance, that we've got on Liseroy, if you're renting that out, that's a income of about $433,000 per annum. If your holding cost per annum just on your interest alone at about 10% is $837,000, it just doesn't make sense viably to hold it. It makes sense to sell it. So you've got to look at your financial position up front and determine whether you've got equity and cash coming in to fund everything, or whether you're going to have to go to the bank and fund it through the bank, or whether you've got enough cash in your back pocket or your own bank to fund the construction. So I think those dynamics come into play at the front, and you've got to determine that up front. When you're in a position that we're in with most of our projects where we're looking to get construction funding, and again, you might be in a position to go and do the funding on your own. Bank funding is always better because it helps you to leverage. So it all comes down to what it is you're looking to achieve on that project. We've certainly spoken about this a number of times. One of our strategies long term is to eventually go out and do a project where we would hold the entire project and not sell anything. As I said, now with Liseroy, for instance, that's a $430,000 project annually that'll generate that income for you. So if you're looking to have some sort of a retirement fund, and $400,000 a year is enough for you to retire on, then 100% do whatever you have to do to get yourself in a position financially where you can go and buy the property, you can fund the construction. If you have to go to the bank, make sure those costs are minimal and you can pay that off with the yield that you're getting from the project. But again, it's a really good strategy to buy, develop, and hold if you can. But it's that fundamental planning up front which is going to determine what you can do at the back end.
Yeah, there's also an argument, CO, that the greatest amount of profit is made when you create the property, right? Not in the long term. In terms of time frame and profit, you do like a time versus money thing. The greatest amount is at the beginning, which is why a lot of people, develop and sell. That's one train of thought. Another train of thought is also then, of course, that by building in, you have a massive uplift on the project. You're holding that. There's already heaps of fat in the project. Then you don't sell that. You can refinance it. And you can go out to another project, as Rima was talking about, etc., etc. So it's why it's really important to decide up front which way you want to go, and which way is the most comfortable to go. Now, if it's just yourself, obviously you can make that decision up front, or you can make it on the move. But as soon as you got more than one person involved, then that's when the decisions get trickier. And you have a large group where you put together you and your mates going in. You really need to know up front which you want to do.
Yeah. Scott, I'm glad you brought that up as well. You mentioned before that you can refinance, pull the equity out, and then go again. I personally would typically only do that if I was to do it on my own. Once you start getting into cross-collateralizing or putting funds out of one project to go into another, and then on one project you've got, say, 5 or 10 partners. On the next project you might have 5 of the partners from the previous project, but then 5 new partners coming on board. It gets really messy when you start doing that. So again, once both strategies might work for both, it just means that your structure is going to become very intricate, and you need to plan really well around that to make sure that you accommodate everybody, cross your T's, dot your I's, make sure you've got everything is set up properly. Because if you don't, and you're pulling money out of one project to go into another because it's equity and it's usable and it could become messy. So again, horses for courses, I think, in that aspect. For me personally, I would typically only pull equity out and utilize what I've got in the first project to do a second project. If I was on my own, or if I was with someone that I would trust, or someone that I've got a really good relationship with, a strong relationship.
So, Theo, it's also worth noting that traditionally in people's mindset, people kind of buy and hold residential property or buy and hold commercial property. But when it comes to development, whether it's residential or commercial, they sell. It. I'm not sure why that's a mindset, but for example, all the work that Karen's done, the 10 plus years she's been with an RPA, is all pretty much being buy and hold, right? For those clients that are buying property, and she gets a list and out she goes and hunts down stuff and whatever. And yet, when we come to development, all the current clients up until now, in the past say 12 months, have very much been, if we're doing development, we're going to develop and sell. Now, I think once again it touches on, as we've said just before, the number of people involved, the complexity of the project, and the purpose of the project. But when we talk about even buying an investment property, I always talk about each property needs to be bought on purpose and for purpose, right? Mm-hmm. So that is what people do, and the purpose that they're deciding in development is usually to cash out. So they're using some equity from somewhere, they're letting it make money, and then they'll go and park that in something they're familiar with. So it's touching on that discussion we had last week on too much choice, where we talked about what people gravitate towards and what they're most comfortable with. The same thing is now appearing in what they do to make money in property, or the business of property, as we call it. And so the fact is that they are more comfortable having their long-term money held in, so they'll give it to Remo to make money, and then they'll take it back and they'll give it to Karen to go and park it in property. And that's kind of like what most of the clients have done. And so when you're talking with our new clients, these are sort of the questions and the comments that come out. But it's very difficult to make one property do lots of different things. That's something that we should all very much know.
Yeah, awesome. So it seems like, Scotty, from what you're sharing, maybe investors have a bit of a mindset around buy and hold, and they're trying to take that mindset into development, where the intention is to sell and make profits in the short term of the development. Whereas a buy and hold, that the strategy of making profits as you buy and making that or taking that into account over a long term with the different level of comfort that they might have when it comes to the development, it is very different. What are some of the things that property owners, investors should look out for? As you've both mentioned, it really comes down to what they've determined in the beginning. What are some of the things that investors need to think about when considering either to develop with the intention to sell and make a profit, or to hold? What are some of the things that they need to consider regarding their different situations?
I'll let Remo talk a tick about some of the development stuff, but Karen has done, hundreds of properties for us over time for buy and hold for clients, right, for investment. So I'm going to let her chime in here because she deals with a lot of those clients in terms of the buy and hold of normal residential investment property, and I guess the dangers of taking that mindset into development. So Karen, I'll let you jump in here.
Sure. As you said, most of our clients, they're either looking for their own home, so that's definitely a buy and hold situation, or they're looking for an investment. Now, most clients are not looking for a house to renovate and flip, because they'll usually go out and do a lot of that, the buying of that themselves. So it tends to be people for various reasons, and that's equally as important to go through that list of why they wanted. Do they want a negatively geared? Do they want a capital gain property? Or they live overseas and they want to buy a property for investment now until they move back? We've done that a few times. All different scenarios. But as we mentioned last week, up front, the biggest thing you need to know is how you're going to get out, or when you need to get out. Are you going to hold this for 20 years? Are you going to hold it for 2 years? They're the sort of things you need to know before you buy the property. how long you want to hold it for, and what the reasoning is for it. If you're going to move into it, then we've done that a few times. You're buying certain suburbs that you want to live in, and you'll rent it out in the meantime. They're the sort of things for buy and hold, and it is in our psyche, I guess, that you just buy a property and you just hold it for 20 years and you make all this money from it. Personally, I'm just so over tenants. Not that I've had issues for many years, but just 20 plus years of having rental properties, I'm really over it. And I'm about out of the last rental property. I don't ever want to see another rental property in my life. And to be honest, sometimes all it takes is the oven dies, the dishwasher dies, I had a hot water system this year in the last few months die. You can't go, oh, hold on, let me save up for that. It's got to be replaced instantly. And, there goes 3 months rent out the window for those sort of things. So, excuse me, I'm personally over it all and won't be doing any more buy and holding unless it's my own house. But for many people, it is ingrained in us that you just go and buy an investment property and you just keep it. Even if it's not working, you keep it.
That's right.
You buy another one, you just keep it.
That's exactly right. I think it just really, everything pushes back to what people are familiar with, CO. And, what Karen's just said is, I see that in all the clients. So, we just want to buy an investment property. Okay, well, not that that's a bad choice, but I always ask why. Well, why do you want to do that? Well, because, it's what we do, whatever, Oh, you don't want to buy a commercial property? Oh, no, no, that's, just comfortable with residential. That's fine. It's not saying it's a bad choice, but we gravitate towards what we're comfortable with. And that's the sort of determining what people's attitudes and appetites are when they move into development. And that's not necessarily a good thing. So I think we've got to come back to, you've got to know up front, as we keep saying, what we want to do with the project. Are we going to hold it? We're going to sell it? We're going to do whatever. And then, of course, the big elephant in the room, and I'm not talking about Remo, I'm talking about how do we sell them, right? I mean, is there a better way to sell it? How do we make sure we get the highest price? There's all that sort of stuff that we've got to sort of talk about, because selling it's easy. Like it's almost as short a word as buy, right? It's just, they're 3 and 4 letter words. Oh, we just buy, we just sell. Yeah, but there's a lot more to it than that. What does that involve? I mean, we know how much work goes into buying, and of course, there's all the sayings about your profits made when you buy, all that sort of stuff, blah blah blah. But there's all the due diligence on a project that goes on top of just the purchase of the land, etc. Can we do the project? What are the overlays? There's all sort of stuff. But when we come to sell, maybe there's not as much research that needs to be done in terms of due diligence, but there's still a component of it. There's still like, what is this price per square meter if we're talking about industrial? What's the demand? How many square meters are sold each year? What's the take up of rental? What's the rent per square meter? What's the number of, what's the style of businesses in the area? So there is a lot of work around that if you want to know to just put a for sale sign up. You can just put a for sale sign up, but that's a bit late. So what Karen touched on, and Remo, but we need to talk about, we need to know what's happening at the end before we begin. And that's the tricky part. And both of those things, whether we're selling or whether we're holding, have complications and issues and what have you. And it's just par for the course. That's what you got to do. But you need to know them up front.
Yeah, I think, Scotty, I think you make a very good point there. Sorry, I keep coming back to Liseroy the whole time, but we're about, I'd say, what, 3.5, maybe 4 months off from turning dirt on Liseroy. We've already got a for sale sign up out the front. And the for sale sign up at the front is going to help us with our exit strategy, even though that's 10 months away still. What that's going to do for us now is it's going to help us get, number one, interest, contracts. It's going to help us get contracts in place. But ultimately what it's going to do is it's going to get owner occupiers to come forward and say, hey, I'm actually looking for 50 square meters. I'm actually looking for 250 square meters. I've outgrown my shed at home, or I've outgrown my current workplace. I'm looking for something bigger. So when you're in that position, you can then start building and designing your development to fit the requirements and the needs of the people that you're selling to. Yeah, thanks for that. So I think that's important. You can't wait till, you know, the day before you submit your DA to go, oh, I wonder I wonder who wants to buy what in this area. You can't do that. You've got to test the market and find out what the market wants prior to actually going out and thinking that you're going to give the market what they want. You can't do that. You've got to, again, always come back to this. You've got to reverse engineer the entire strategy. You've got to look at what they want, then come back, plan it, build it, and then sell it back to the person that told you what they want. Sorry about that. The joys of living in Nelson Bay.
Didn't sound like a surfboard at all, mate. I don't know what you're talking about.
I didn't sound like a surfboard.
No. Well, I thought that's all that happened at Nelson Bay. I didn't think they had cars and stuff. I just had surfboards. So so CO, and this is a question for you. Now we're reversing the tables. Do any of the clients ask about what our sales strategy is, or do they just accept the fact that they're going to be sold?
Yes, they do. So their concerns are more so how do we know how effective the sales strategy is? Obviously, when it comes to development, we want to be able to sell 100% in pre-sales. A lot of investors would be asking questions around what kind of demand is there and how would they be able to identify that. So again, I guess it comes down to what you've both mentioned, whether you're in development or holding, you want to consider what the exit strategy is and when. So I guess when is the biggest question when it comes to property development, and I guess that's also an important topic when it comes to, or an important question to consider when it comes to holding as well. How long are you going to hold, or when are you going to exit if it's property development? And again, I guess from what you've all shared, it really comes back down to having the goal or understanding what the end goal is to determine the exit strategy and answer those questions. Is that the
That's so. Let's. I'll quickly answer the whole one, because the whole one is going to be completely dependent on per project, right? So, you know, what's our length of time for holding? You know, how many people are involved? What's the amount of equity? What are we trying to achieve out of it? Whatever. So that's not something that is a blanket answer, right? So that is very much project specific, and as we keep saying, very much decided up front, right? But what I'm going to do here is we're going to talk. I'll let Remo talk about when is the best time to look at selling, and I'm going to let Karen, because she's done heaps of these, talk about how is the best thing, like how do we choose an agent to sell, right? Because we always need that sort of arm's length. We can sell stuff ourselves, but then, you know, anyway, it gets complicated. So Remo, when is the best time to sell a development site? And then Karen, how do we choose an agent?
Cool. So I'm just going to touch quickly on something CEO said about 100% pre-sales. I don't believe that it's in anybody's best interest to sell your entire development upfront. So if you've got 20 units for sale, don't sell 20 units the day that you, like, if you can sell 20 units tomorrow, don't. I know you're like, oh, but why not? The market goes up, especially in a market like today. You don't want to be selling out 100% upfront. What you want to do is you want to get some market engagement. You want to look at, as I said, get the full sales sign up, get some contracts in, or get some EOIs in, and figure out what people want and point them, you know, give them what they want at that stage. But only release 3 or 4 units at a time, saying, look, we're only releasing X amount right now. The market's going to go up at some stage. It's not even creeping at the moment. When we started our project, the units, the cost per square meter around the areas that we're developing at the moment was sitting at about 3,500 ex-GST. Now it's sitting at about 4,000 to 4,500 up to 5,000 ex-GST in certain areas. So the market's going to go up. So I wouldn't sell right at the start. I definitely want to get market engagement and get some EOIs in. Once you start turning dirt and people can start seeing what's happening on site. Maybe sell off a couple, 3 or 4, depending on. I would sell maybe 20% or 30% of what you've got, and keep the other people there and say, look, more units will become for sale within the next 6 to 8 weeks or the next 3 months. You certainly want to get to a point where you have 100% sales by the time the development's completed. 100%, definitely, I agree with that. But you don't want to sell everything at once. Yeah, so that's my strategy. That's my theory. I certainly won't. Yeah, I don't think it's the right move to just release everything into the market on day one.
Okay, good point. And so, Karen, one of your favourite pastimes for us is choosing real estate agents. So, take us through
real estate agents.
how we go through the process of doing that.
Yeah, so we offer a divestment service for clients or just anybody to help sell their house. So we don't actually sell it ourselves. So this is usually when it becomes very obvious that when people bought the property, they didn't think about the selling part of it. So sometimes what you're selling, sometimes they don't make money. Sometimes there's a loss because they didn't buy it properly in the first place or for the right reasons. We used to have an agent we used to deal with occasionally down in Brisbane, and she was the tennis court lady. So she sold houses that specialised in tennis courts. So obviously of a certain price range, a certain sort of level of, beautiful homes, that sort of thing. At the time, they would have been well in the $1 million range, now 2 or 3 million. So if you're selling a unit in Brisbane, you're not going to call this lady. So what I do is assess the property myself, then go through and find who has sold similar properties in that area, a house, not a unit, or a farm, or different things, because different agents specialize in different types of properties. And back then you used to be able to go, how long did it take them to sell it? Yes, they might have 6 sales, but it might have taken them 2 years to make those 6 sales. Whereas now you would expect stuff would go within a matter of weeks. So to find the right agent, certain agencies now are trying to push for extra commissions if they get over what they expect is the price you might get. Basically just trying to do a really high commission because everything is selling for way and above. So once I've found the agent that I believe does the right thing, obviously the client needs to approve it, then if not before, sometimes interview that agent. What's your plan? What's your marketing plan? No, we're not doing this. No, we're not doing that. Just, all the crap that they try to push on clients who just go, oh, yeah, we'll do auction. Oh, we'll pay this marketing. Oh, yes, market it everywhere. Do this, do that. Oh, yeah, we'll pay extra commission if you get more money. No. That is a load of crap that agents will just push on people who don't know any better, really. So we come along, we deal with the agents. So then you get rid of all the rubbish they try to push on a client because they know it's not going to work with us. And we usually can present a client with a very clean marketing plan. It's not marketing things that are not necessary, the right agent, the correct pricing to start with. And generally, even out of a fast-moving market, we would sell things in a reasonably good time frame.
Yeah, that's right. And CO, it's sorry, Remo, but just to make a note of that, like investment is getting in and divestment is getting out. So when we talk to clients, that's what we sort of educate them on. Yeah, Remo?
Yeah, I was just going to say, you typically also wouldn't give, not talking so much about what Karen's talking about. Karen's more, and I would imagine you're more referring to if you were to help buy and sell a house for someone. When you're getting into a development as such, where you might have 20 blocks of land available or 30 or 40 units available, you typically wouldn't give exclusivity to one agent. You would typically give that agent maybe, 10, 15, 20% of what you've got, or you would say to them, look, we've got 5 units available, go sell. Once they sold, you can come back to me and we can give you some more. The other thing that I will also look at doing is you can't just rely on one sales strategy. You can't just go, well, we're just going to use our agent to sell our units or our development for us, because one strategy is just not going to cut it. One strategy would cut it if you were buying and selling a house, no doubt, because we all know where to go when we're looking for a house to buy. You go to domain-or-realestate.com. But when you're looking to sell a development and you've got multiple units to sell, you want to have 3 or 4 strategies in play at any given time to sort of back yourself up, and you want to give you might want to get 2 or 3 agents on board. Those agents would have different databases. You might want to run some Facebook ads. You guys would know if you go on Facebook these days, if you even remotely look at anything that's related to development, all of a sudden, all of these developments that are for sale pops up. And then you want to look at some external databases as well. So you want to find someone or a number of people that are in the marketplace, not so much in real estate sales, but also in the investment space where they help or work with other investors that are looking for really good yields on investment properties. So, so I definitely think that's a strategy that anybody should take on when they get into developments, is having 3 or 4 strategies in play at any given time to ensure.
That is the two-edged sword, right? I mean, you've got more stock to sell in development, and the advantage is you can have more agents. It's more accepted, because the problem you got when we're dealing with just one house, that like Karen was talking about, is that the old days of having a couple of agents on it, unless it's something super duper expensive or special, if it's anything under $5 million, you're just going to have one agent on it, or they're not going to give you any time of the day. And so you've got to make sure you're choosing that agent really well, because you are locked in for a time. And it's similar to the developments when we get to that point where we have like 2 or 3 agents and you've still got some agents locked in. You've got to have your contracts drafted pretty wisely so that you can move some stock around. Like, you've given lots 3, 6, and 9 to one agent, but he wants to sell lot 10. Can we move lot 10 around from the pool? Can we swap that out to, so that you've got to be able to have that ability to be dynamic in the sales process as well. So there's all those things there that that is you got to consider on both those sides. But CEO, we're over time. It's your fault.
Thanks, guys. That covers a lot. We touched on everything from buying, selling, development, and different things to consider. So I trust there'll be a lot of value for the viewers out there. Answers a lot of questions for myself and others. So thanks for covering that.
Yeah, no, that's good. And look, we got, I think we got one. We've just got one more show. We got 2 more. I got one more show. I don't know.
One more show.
Yeah. The Christmas show.
Christmas show. All right.
I believe did you mention you're gonna sing some Christmas carols and stuff on that next show for us? The last one you did, didn't you?
I thought he was dressing up as Santa.
Was he? Oh,
I can do that. I've got.
Well, one of you 3 have got the beard for Santa. It's not going to be
me.
me.
I don't have much of a beard for Santa. No, you don't, Karen, have a beard for Santa. But we do have 3 other choices, and I don't know. I mean, until probably yesterday, Remo would have been in the running, but you've had a trim, mate.
Mate, last night. How good is that? Hey? This is me. That's my haircut. I did that.
Okay. Well, I don't know whether that's something to be proud of or not, but we might end it on that note anyway. So thanks, Realmers, and we'll see you next week. All right, and for those of you listening and watching, don't forget to find us on Facebook. Isn't that sounded very cliche, doesn't it? So you need to find us at Property Realm Australia. That's our group, and you can ask your questions, do whatever in there. And, of course, the shows are broadcast directly into that group every Tuesday. Well, most Tuesdays, and it's Christmas holidays, and we don't. But after that, we'll be back next year. So we're on one more show this year. Now, what was the other thing? We've got a shout-out here. My mate Hayden. G'day, Hayden. How you going? You're stopping by watching us today. So thanks for the thumbs up on the like and your comment. That's great. Good to see you in there, Hayden. And what else we got? That's it. So same time next Tuesday, we'll be back with a Christmas show. We're going to be talking about not so much Christmas, but what to do over the Christmas break if you're going shopping for property, because that's a big one. A lot of people do it. How to not get emotional and all that sort of stuff. All right, that's it from us today, and we'll see you next week. All right, see ya.
See ya.